lockdown alert.
You have two jobs. You need to be sitting and you need to be silent. Please go do it now.
It's not that the schools are unsafe, it's that we want to provide a safe learning environment.
I'm just telling her, you don't need to be. You're doing a great job.
Welcome to A Closer Look. I'm Susan Kenedy. I'm standing here at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville. Did you know that there's more than 160,000 students who go to school in Montgomery County, and each and every one of them deserves an environment that's safe where they can live, learn, and grow. However, recent events in Florida and Texas have people on edge and asking, are our schools safe? The statistics are staggering. More than 200,000 children have been exposed to gun violence in school since the Columbine incident in 1999. Just this year, there have already been 16 school shootings. Despite those statistics, schools still remain one of the safest places for our children. And here in Montgomery County, officials are working together to keep them that way.
So our office is responsible for the overall security of Montgomery County Public Schools.
Not only does Bob Helmuth's office oversee security in every county school, he and his staff have their finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in Montgomery County.
You name it, we deal with it. Whether it is students issues, staff issues, community issues such as gang issues that are coming up, we are responsible for all of that. But more likely, what we encounter here will be either a weather situation or a situation in the community that really doesn't involve the schools, but it impacts the schools, such as police activity in the community, fire activity, a large accident where we're shutting down, where roads are shut down and we have to reroute transportation.
Helmuth's office is central command for all security-related issues involving the schools.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, this is our command center. So we can click on any school, pick a school, Northwood, for example. Then we use this anytime there's a major emergency in any one of our schools. And we can actually see what's going on in the school. We have a direct line to the police department. If there's a major emergency, the police department often will send somebody here to watch the cameras with us while they're talking to people that are on the scene. We have 202 schools and about 15 facilities that are all alarmed. So it's constant. There's constant motion in here. They're analyzing the alarms, what they see, what type of alarm it is, and then dispatching our patrollers, who also work overnight and weekends, out to schools. If we start seeing patterns, so we start seeing, we'll get maybe an intrusion alarm followed by a number of motion alarms, that tells us somebody's moving through the building. We will then contact the county police to respond with us.
With more than 5,500 cameras installed in high schools and middle schools, MCPS officials are able to go back and review incidents to reconstruct events that occur.
We've had several events that have occurred in the schools that have involved criminal investigations where there were accusations that we were able to go back and reconstruct what actually happened.
In the case of an emergency, MCPS has terms it uses to alert faculty and students: lockdown, evacuate, and shelter.
This is a lockdown alert.
You have two jobs. You need to be sitting and you need to be silent. Please go do it now.
Students are drilled on procedures for each of these alerts throughout the school year.
Anybody in the bathroom?
This is a shelter alert. There's an emergency in the community that requires the locking of the exterior doors until further notice.
Sitting and silent. I'm just telling her, you don't need to be. You're doing a great job.
In addition to school security, every high school in Montgomery County has a school resource officer who is trained in emergency preparedness, crisis management, and problem solving.
I can tell you a lot of times the mediations that we all do in this room are a direct result of postings on social media.
Initially, some folks were skeptical of the idea of putting police in the schools, But today, the perception is different.
I think over time, people recognize that it's not that the schools are unsafe, it's that we want to provide a safe learning environment. You know, the last thing that any parent wants is for their kid to go to class and be worried about their safety. They want their focus on the teacher, on learning, and if you're worried about your safety, then you're not going to learn as well.
Though it seems school shootings and violence are in the news on a regular basis, most schools remain free of serious violence. Though Maryland has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation, the Parkland massacre has sparked momentum behind gun reform. Even students here in Montgomery County have become vocal challengers of lawmakers who support gun rights.
And let's be clear, my right to live outweighs your right to buy an assault rifle.
But the good news is Montgomery County has a long history of safe schools.
Parents absolutely, understandably, will come to me and say, well, what would have happened if that happened here?
Is there budgeting for more security and things like that going on with the, across the country with the school shootings?
And they want an answer that our cops are prepared for that.
Every child in the school system who walks on the grounds of an MCPS property needs to be guaranteed and assured that our safety is of the utmost concern.
So long ago, we trained our officers to become what we call immediate action teams for active shooter situations. And whether it's in a school, whether it's in a mall, no matter where it is, our cops are trained to react immediately to an active shooter.
Just one day after the tragedy in Parkland, authorities arrested 18-year-old Alwyn Chen, a senior at Clarksburg High School, for carrying a gun to school in his backpack. Troy Malott is the SRO at Clarksburg. Because of the trust he has developed with students over his 5 years at the school, he received information from a classmate of Chen's that he had brought a gun to school.
I had information from a source here at the school, credible information, and myself and security developed a plan. And I'll be totally honest with you, I would be a fish out of water without the security team here. And I often say that they're one of the best in the county. They're very instrumental in the daily, daily lives here at the school with the kids and the admin staff. And we developed a plan, and it worked without a hitch, and everyone was safe when it was done.
Clarksburg High School is a really good case study to look at. The way this information came to the police, the fact that we're trying to encourage trust between the kids at the school and the SRO. The SRO, my hope is that when that SRO goes in there, everybody's going, hey, officer so-and-so, how you doing?
Tell us what today is.
Today's Wacky Wednesday.
The officer knows the kids know the officer, they feel a good, trusting relationship there. And that's what happened at Clarksburg.
Though the arrest of this particular student caught Malott and the rest of the Clarksburg staff by surprise, he told us they investigate every threat that comes into the school through social media or word of mouth very seriously.
We have a zero tolerance for it. We're going, to the person's house. We're talking to the parents. We're asking them straight up, do you have weapons, in the house? Is your son or daughter capable of accessing weapons? So we're fully investigating every complaint, every threat that comes into Montgomery County schools.
But as Chief Manger said, to be an effective SRO, there has to be a good relationship between the principal, the staff, and the officer.
The school resource officer is critical. Critical. Officer Malott and all the other officers I've worked with have been great with the students. They don't come across as officers. They come across as, to a certain extent to the kids, just another staff member, another person that the kids can make a relationship with, a positive relationship with. Of course, though, they are officers of the law and they uphold the law. And when it's necessary, they do that, but they do it in a way that's not threatening to the kids, and it's more respectful.
Kids often, between cyberbullying and
Joe Lowry has been a Montgomery County police officer for 30 years.
track star extraordinary.
All right. And the last 11 of those years have been spent as an SRO. He's stationed at Quince Orchard High School in Gaithersburg.
We have the same birthday. You good, brother? Yes.
Officer Lowry will tell you overseeing a school of 2,000 students isn't easy.
I mean, is this genetics, or you have a stylist at home, or what?
But he works to gain the respect of students so they know he is on their side.
Well, I think the first thing is that this job is really about relationships, and so it's very important that, and all of our SROs do this, but it's very important that you build really good relationships with your kids, because ultimately, I mean, it's just one officer here and 6 security folks, but usually the kids, if something's going to happen, whether it be a fight or some other kind of disagreement, usually if you have a good relationship, the kids will come and tell us before it happens, so we can sort of intercede before anything, ridiculous happens. Did you bring me lunch today?
Walking around the halls of Quince Orchard, students are happy to encounter Officer Lowry. He has his finger on the pulse of the school, and the many students we spoke to told us he has a positive impact on the environment at the high school.
I honestly think that he's a special guy to have around the school because it makes us feel safe, and the fact that he's so nice, and then he doesn't act like he's the boss of the school, and it makes us feel more open to him.
What is it about him?
It's just his natural flair, the way he walks down the hallway. Everybody finds him really cool. It's just the way he represents himself.
Never yells, never is threatening, is always the nicest guy you ever want to meet.
School resource officers wear many different hats while they're on the job: mentor, teacher, and confidant. Sharice Junius is the SRO at Blair High School.
The coolest thing about being an SRO is when you're a patrol officer and you arrest a kid, you don't see him after that. But if I have to arrest a kid here, they have to come back to school, so I have to have some relationship with them. And a lot of times, even when I have to, which is rare lately, arrest a student, I always explain to them, it's not the end of the world. You have to make better decisions, and I do a lot of that. But so that's actually a way for me to build a relationship with them.
There are more than 3,000 students at Blair, making her more like the police chief of a small town.
Tell us a little bit about, crowd control. You've had a couple of incidents, or not really incidents, situations, the walkouts, the students who came from Parkland. How do you manage that?
So it's actually interesting. I have a Twitter account and an Instagram account, and I actually kind of use that to see what the kids are doing in school. So when I can get ahead of when they're planning a walkout, I'll try to find who the student that's leading it and meet with them and figure out what their plans are so we can help facilitate that. And generally we'll just, if we need to block some traffic, we'll make it so they can get to where they're trying to go in a safe manner. Social media is actually a good way for me to kind of find out, to kind of keep a pulse on the school to figure out what's going on.
She is one of a handful of female SROs, which she says can be an advantage.
I think as a female officer, I think I feel less threatening to, especially some of the male students too, where I can get a lot of them to talk to me where they maybe wouldn't even talk to a male officer just because I think there's just less of a threat to them. So that's actually been really helpful to me, especially dealing with some of the students who have problems from home. I can sit down and have a conversation and have some rapport with them, and then not turn into anything bad, where a police officer on the street, especially a male police officer on the street, would probably have a harder time talking with them.
Councilmember Craig Rice chairs the County Council's Education Committee, and he's a big advocate of the SRO program.
So what I think a lot of people don't understand about school resource officers is they oftentimes just see them as police officers. And part of their job is certainly as a police officer to make sure that our school is safe. But it's also about the proactivity that goes in. It's just not about the reactiveness. It's about having a relationship with students, knowing which students may have had an issue that they heard about in their neighborhood that previous weekend, and that they're coming to school and maybe a little bit upset, and they're able to reach out to them and say, hey, just wanted to talk to you, make sure everything was cool. The word on the street is that, you might not be happy, and, have that reach out. And that oftentimes averts a lot of the challenges that we see on a daily basis that are happening in our school system.
Rice says he would like to expand the program to all of the middle schools in the county. In this year's budget, adopted by the County Council, funding for 3 new SROs for the middle schools was approved.
And the reality is just as much time is needed in our middle schools as is in our high schools. We're starting to see some of those same things, those same behaviors, those same kinds of challenges that our kids are being faced with, trickling into our middle schools as young as 6th grade.
We'll talk a little bit about some of the issues that you've been dealing with.
There's a lot that goes into becoming an SRO, and training is critical. Stopping school violence before it ever begins relies heavily on the training the officers receive. Montgomery County Police hold meetings and training several times throughout the year for school resource officers. And this particular session we visited focused on crisis intervention.
You know, this is complicated because they all require different levels of intervention.
We have a monthly meeting to talk about current things that are happening nationwide. We don't put a limit on how long the meeting is. We want to make sure that, you know, all the officers are getting all the information they can.
Have you noticed an uptick yourself in terms of the number of threats or the number of references to school shootings on social media?
Maybe the number that's being reported to us.
We may do active shooter training at a school. We may do, you know, different things as it relates to being a school resource officer. So other than what we're getting in our in-service hours for the department that's mandatory through the state, we're also getting another week of training outside of that.
A recent report released by Montgomery County Schools covers safety issues and how concerns following the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman are being addressed. The report recommends a 45-day action plan that calls for retrofitting classroom door locks and going above state requirements for safety drills and add active shooter responses.
This year we added additional lockdown drills in response to the shootings, school shootings, and the fact that there was there was some community concern and even concern at the schools about how are we doing these, are we doing enough of them, and so forth. So the superintendent ordered extra lockdown drills. It's very, very rare that during class time you've got students out in the hall.
And do Bob Helmuth and Chief Manger both think,
Attention staff, students, and visitors, this is a lockdown alert.
that if an active shooter situation occurred in one of Montgomery County schools, would they be prepared?
I'm confident that we have been trained.
Okay, boys, you need to be following directions. There is a shelter drill.
And we would do the best that we can do.
There is a shelter drill right now. Follow direction.
You know, every shooter is a little different, right? So if we go back and we review every time there's a shooting incident, we go back and we look at it, as does the FBI, the Secret Service, the state police. There's no guarantees out here at all, but how we manage that and how we recover from that, I am confident that as a school district that we can do that.
It's been since Columbine that police have changed the way they respond to these shootings in schools. You know, it used to be you got there, you secured the scene, and you waited for the SWAT team to come in to address it. Well, ever since Columbine, they said, nope, we can't do that because you're losing more lives waiting for these specialized units. So long ago, we trained our officers to become what we call immediate action teams for active shooter situations, and whether it's in a school, whether it's in a mall, no matter where it is, our cops are trained to react immediately to an active shooter.
Despite all of the hard work Montgomery County schools and the police are doing to keep our schools safe, there's still the question in this scary new world, do the students feel safe? For this story, we visited 3 Montgomery County high schools located in different parts of the county. Every student we spoke to said yes, they felt safe at their school.
Do you think he makes the school a safer place?
He does. We definitely know that he's around, so we feel safer.
So does he make you guys feel safe while you're at school?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, more safe than as opposed if he was not here.
Officer Lowry says the key to that answer is that the students are active participants in their own safety. They are taught that if they see something, say something.
They're equally important partners to making sure we're safe in the schools, because I think that's why the kids feel inspired to not just talk to me, but any trusted adult in the building.
That's my man's, bro.
We've got to, as a community, as a nation, we've got to find the right balance how can we protect our kids.
Yes, they're juniors, upper class, soon to be seniors.
The reaction by the kids down there, the reaction by students around the country is significant, and I think that this has the opportunity to move the needle a little bit in terms of dealing with issues about guns and dealing with issues about school safety. And so my hope is, we are able to make some of the changes that I think will make us safer as a nation.
Montgomery County Public Schools will be providing updates on safety and security during the summer months, and you can also find the full school safety and security report on the school's website. Though there are no easy answers, Montgomery County is committed to keeping our kids in safe havens where they can live, learn, and grow. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kenedy. Thanks for watching.